Welcome to Linda Strickland Art, No Rules Watercolor. I'm Linda, this is Schooner, and today we will be doing direct painting. If you're new to watercolor, you may want to check out my setting up and getting started videos on my YouTube channel, Linda Strickland Art. It is my goal today to give you just enough information so that you feel confident to paint exuberantly. So grab some brushes and let's get started. Today's video is another direct painting video with some different backgrounds. I'm painting from my Watercoloring Cards Coastal Cousins bundle. This is the Redfish and the Seahorse, which I'm going to do in a similar technique and with similar colors. So I'm going to start with the Redfish. If you've got my Watercoloring Cards painting bundle and you've got this palette, or if you've got any palette with paint in it, this is one attribute of watercolor that beats all the other mediums as well. You can reconstitute this paint after it's dry and it's as good as it is out of the tube. So if you've got a little spray bottle, you could just do this. Get them when, before you start, give it a minute or two. It'll soften right up and be just as good as new. You also could just take your brush and dance a little water on them to get them rolling. Okay. So I'm going to paint directly on this subject, leaving white. I've got a clean brush. I'm going to start with the Gamboge Yellow. If you have ever been to South Texas or anywhere on the Gulf, you may know about Redfish. They are, this is the dish that Chef Prudhomme made, started the blackened craze. Blackened redfish is what started this. They put up a good fight when you catch them. They're good to eat and they're fun to catch. So they're a big staple here on the Gulf of Mexico. So I've got a little yellow on him. I'm going to clean my brush, pick up a little bit of orange, make my juicy puddle, and just kind of drop some orange in so that he's got some variations of shades of color on him. Some more yellow, some more orangey. Okay, I'm going to clean my brush because I've got a lot of water on this and just soften this edge with clean water. I want to pull some of this down into his fins a little. Maybe he needs a little more orange on him. Right up by the spine. And it's going to run, and that's exactly what we want it to do. All right, same thing with the other guys. A little yellow on him. Clean my brush. I'm not sure you even need to clean your brush. A little orange. Now, that's stronger than that one. I'm going to lift some of this off. I've got a clean brush and I blotted my extra water off. Just going to soften this some. Okay, one more. Mix up my yellow. Now I go right over his mouth and his eye because they're going to be dark anyway, so it doesn't hurt anything for it to have yellow on it. And it gives you a nicer brush stroke, I think, than trying to go around it. It's kind of harder. A little color up into the fins. Now you can see by looking at this how much prettier it is with the orange dropped in than it is just yellow. Which makes me want to hurry and get that orange in there. Ooh, that looked good. I'm getting darker as I go. Maybe he's in the back, so he's darker. It looks so pretty, I'm just going to let it be. And if I decide that that's too much or I don't like it later, I can change it. Because it's my painting, I get to do what I want. Best to paint it, put the paint down and leave it alone. So, I say that. Now I want to put a little more. This looks so good, I'm thinking I need a little more here. Clean my brush and just kind of push this around with water. Okay. I'm going to take my own advice, let this dry, and then come back and put the next color on. All right, he's good and dry. You can let them air dry, which is probably preferable, but I'm impatient, so I hit this with a blow dryer. So this is now dry. And I'm ready to I needed it dry because I'm going to put the blue shadow colors on him. And blue and orange mixed together are going to make a muddy gray neutralized color. And I want a nice clean blue. So I'm gonna clean out my mixing area so none of that orange gets in. And I've got the manganese blue. Gonna mix up a puddle of blue and just shadow him some. They're basically white underneath, but because they're round, they're a cylinder, they're gonna catch shadow in some places underneath. Now, I can put the blue right on top of the orange and it'll lay on top and make a pretty shadow color. If I mix the two together, it's not so. It'll neutralize to a gray tone. All right, I've cleaned my brush, got the extra water off it. This is clean water on my brush. Just gonna kind of soften this. Because like I said, he's round. Their tail fins, all their fins, are kind of translucent. You know what fish fins look like. But again, they would catch shadow, so I'm gonna put a little shadow color on down his fins. Leave in white. I don't have to paint everything solid. Leave something for your viewer to think about and to figure out. Maybe there's a shadow here. I kind of like how that looks on top of the orange. I'm gonna leave that be. I may soften this edge. Looks pretty good. All right, same thing with the other guys. And the tails are translucent, but a little shadow color on them will give them some shape. And then again, blue and orange being color complements, these look nice together. They complement each other, so we got that going for us. He looks like he would be catching light right there, so I'm not going to put too much there. Maybe it's here instead. And his mouth would be shadowy. A little bit on the fins. That's pretty right there, huh? Again, since this is dry, I can lay that blue right on top of it and it just makes a nice layer of color. That's what we're going for here. Okay, I think that should do it. And then again, watercolor is a lot of hurry up and wait, so I'll let this dry and then I'll put the details on them. Okay, it's all dry again. I cleaned out my mixing area. I'm ready to go. What I'm going to do is add a little bit of detail using the same color that's underneath. So if it's yellow and orange here, I'm going to put another layer of the yellow orange on top. So let me mix up some orange. And then I think I'll mix up some yellow, and then I can just swoosh around into both of them without having to think about it. Okay, I like this color right here. I'm gonna try to get more of that. That looks like it's just straight up orange. Like along his back would be a little darker, I think. So you can kind of follow the drawing lines, if that makes any sense, and just kind of put some emphasis on in some places where the drawing is. I'm going to try this. Let's get a little bit of this opera. Put it in there and see if that's too dark. It's pretty dark. Kind of pretty. Let's see. Let me take a clean brush and just lift a little bit, try to push this color around a little bit much. Now remember, watercolor dries a little lighter, so if it's a little garish at first, it will dry lighter. It's good to have the light value, the mid-tone value, and the dark value. And so I'm kind of putting what would constitute darks on this painting using the orangey color. This is so much fun, I can't really stop. Let me go to this guy. Soften that edge. Okay, same thing with him. I'm just gonna wish around whatever color's on there and see what we get. I like this back here because the blue really does push back. Look what I did. And it makes him look like he's, you know, like coming up at a different angle. That's good. I like that. All right. I think that might still be a little strong. But you can't really tell till you put the darks in. And the darks in this case are the dots on the tail and their eyes. These fish, if you know these fish at all, they are known for these big spots they have on their tail. And they're really dark, like almost black. So I'm going to mix up a black, dark or a black, something that reads as black. I'm using the ultramarine blue and the burnt sienna. And I'm going to mix them right here on the palette. Do his eye. Now, if this is wet, I'm in trouble. Oops, it was wet. I'm going to have to stop and dry this. I'll be right back. Okay, we're dry again. Let me see if I can get these darks in without them running everywhere. This eye held just fine because it wasn't wet. This one I had to get the extra off, put this color back in. And I really wanted these spots on the tail to be just so. That's the mark of a redfish. Okay, so now that these darks are in, I'm thinking that the dark orange that I put in looks a little better, a little more right, because I've got some other darks in there. I could take the orangey color and make these like scale shapes. This is a good watercolor trick. If you're, like this whole fish is covered with scales, but if I were to draw every little scale on him, it would just be so tedious and boring to me. So what you can do, it's the same as doing a building made out of bricks. A brick wall may have 7,287 bricks on it, but you're not going to draw all those. You're going to draw a little portion of them and then stop, and a little portion again. That's what we've done with the little scale marks. Your viewer will fill it in themselves, and it kind of entertains the viewer, gives them something to do. I guess these should be the same color as what's underneath. So entertain your viewer. Give them something to do. Let them figure for themselves that these are scales here. There's some over here. Okay. Oh, the inside of his mouth. The inside of his mouth would be dark. I don't think it would be black. So maybe just a cobalt blue. Let's see how that looks. Pushing it around. Just pushing it around with a clean brush. I think that should do it. I could probably paint more because it's so much fun, but I need to stop and leave it alone. Okay, the fish are dry. I'm happy with how they look. I think they look good. I'm gonna paint the background in blues and greens because they're in water. But that being said, they don't have to be in blue or green. You can paint the background any color you like. A purple would be really nice too. So do what feels good to you. Also, they don't have to have a background at all. You can just stay with the white background. I'm going to put them in blue and green. I'm going to paint this quickly on this video, but if you want to see full instructional video on how to do this type of background, go view my open color video, and there's more complete instructions on how to do this. So this is the Seahorse. I'm going to do it in a similar style, direct painting, and using similar colors as I just did in the Redfish. However, I'm going to do something cool and groovy with the background. You can see that I've taped this off with painter's tape like I did in the seagull painting, which was the video on painting a white or light subject. So it's just got painter's tape on so that when we pull this off, we've got a nice crisp edge. So I'm going to start with gamboge, the yellow. Get a juicy puddle going, and I'm just gonna splash some color on him. I'm not even gonna worry too much about how perfect it is. Just get some color on him. All right, so I'm painting with right on dry paper with a good juicy puddle. Whoops. Got excited there. All right, I'm gonna drop some orange in places. I don't want him the same all the way down. I'm going to leave a little bit of white in a couple places, lighter in some places, darker in others. It's just more interesting that way. I'm going to let the paint mix on the paper rather than mixing it myself. Some of that dark got kind of, some of the yellow faded out a lot, so I'll put a little more in there. And if I really want to stay in the analogous kind of color scheme, but I want this dark to be even orangier, the orangier to be a little more dark. I think I said that backwards. I can put some of this pink in here just to make some areas a little darker. That's too pink. I don't really want him to be pink, believe it or not. So I'm going to lift that out with my wet brush and put the orange back in. I just wanted to deepen the orange a little bit, like that right there. That was my goal. I don't know if I accomplished that. Lights and darks, that's the interesting thing. All right. I'm gonna let that be and dry and then come in and put some details in him. So this painting is dry and I'm going to add details to him now in the similar manner that I just did with the Redfish, which is using the same colors to put in another layer, kind of following my drawing line. So I'm going to use the gamboge, the orange, and I'm going to add a little burnt sienna if it needs to get even darker. So I'm going to just quickly paint this. All right, he's all dry and ready for his background. And this is, I'm gonna do a kind of fun background that I call a splatter background, which you're about to see why. And I wanna cover up, I've got toilet tissue here, just gonna cover up my, whoopsie, let's tear it. Just cover up my subject a little bit so that I can splatter with reckless abandon. Exuberant splattering, here we go. I've got just water on my brush and this brush holds a lot of water and I'm just gonna splatter with water. The best way to splatter is with these fingers, just like this. You also could just like throw it, which is a little more aggressive. This is a little more dainty. Splatter with water. Okay, that'll get us rolling. You can see I cleaned my palette and I have a clean blotter because I was working in reds and oranges, and now I'm gonna work in blues. I don't want everything, my color to stay clean. So I've got clean water. I'm gonna use this, so I'm gonna start with manganese blue. Mix up my juicy puddle. Get my brush, roll it, get it down in there. Get it, full of manganese. And do the same thing. Splatter. You can see the efforts of your work here with the color. All right, that looks pretty good. Now I'm gonna get some of this cobalt blue, the medium blue. Mix up my juicy puddle of that. Roll my brush around in it. Splatter away. Now the cobalt's a lot stronger than the manganese, so we'll see. We may need a little more manganese back in there. And you can splatter as much as you want. You can splatter with pink, you can put yellow in there, whatever you want. Make sure it's gonna mix nicely with the blue, play well with others. So when you think you got enough splatter on there, remove the toilet tissue. Now, I've got a clean brush with just water on it. I'm gonna blot the excess water off because I've already kind of got this good and wet. Blot the excess water off. And now you're just gonna kind of tickle it around and make what I call cloud shapes. I don't know how accurate that is, but just put the brush down and wiggle it. I like to be a nice edge up against my subject and then just kind of wiggle it around as you go out. Nice edge across the subject. And then just kind of tickle it. Let's do this up here. This looks good. Nice edge around the subject. And just kind of wiggle the brush. Now, if there's not enough paint there, just pick some up. There's no rules here. Do whatever you want. The fun of this is hopefully it looks kind of like he's, I don't know, splashing. Or in a spray of water, maybe. Just keep going. Nice edge around the subject. Now, I know there won't be any splatters in here where we had him covered. I don't think that's all right. But you can splatter more if you want to, right in here. And it won't matter if a little splatter gets on him. It's all good. Splatter's all good. Now, I didn't paint very neatly there, so I may want to actually redefine the shape of the seahorse there, since I let the orange go out of the lines. All right, nice edge around the subject, and then just you got to kind of move quickly because these splatters are already drying. So this is fun because it gives you hard edges and soft edges kind of at the same time, which is hard to achieve without doing something like this. Oops. I'm feeling the need for a little more manganese in there. Okay, now, I don't mind a little manganese right on top of the orange for some shadowy stuff, like we did on the redfish. As long as that's dry, it'll float right on top of it pretty well. And then, and you can play with this as much as you want. You can splatter even on top of the wet. You could splatter on top of the seahorse himself. And like everything else, don't overpaint it. So he's done. So all that's left to do on this guy is to remove the tape. And he's ready to go.
for watching Linda Strickland Art, No Rules Watercolor. Give me a thumbs up if you liked it, and comment below if you have any questions, and please post photos of your watercolors, both the fabulous successes and the exuberant fails. See you next time.